Are you struggling to conceive? You have options, and at Piedmont Reproductive Endocrinology Group, we'll make sure you have the guidance and support you need. PREG is known for individualized fertility care that's unique to every patient. We take the time to provide a reassuring and empowering experience because we believe that you deserve nothing less. Let us help you on your journey to parenthood. Visit us at pregonline.com to learn more. Get the guidance and support you need at Piedmont Reproductive Endocrinology Group.
PMS, pregnancy, menopause. Each stage of womanhood has its unique challenges. That's why Highlands Naturals' new women's multivitamins are formulated with essential daily nutrients, plus targeted support for your life stage. Facing PMS? There's a Highlands multi for that. Navigating pregnancy and morning sickness? That too. In the throes of menopause, our formula is here to support you through hot flashes and skin changes. Gone are the days of juggling multiple supplements or guessing what you might need. With Highlands Naturals, it's one multivitamin with daily essential nutrients and science-backed ingredients to support you. An all-in-one wellness solution to lighten the load for women? Highlands Naturals is here for it. Find your multi at Amazon or Highlands.com. That's HYLANDS.com. Highlands Naturals. We're here for it.
If you really like this episode, please support our podcast by going to patreon.com/truecrimewives and get lots of great extras. Good Wives Guide to True Crime. We discuss crimes that some may find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back, listeners. We're so happy that you joined us because we're all super excited about our current series. Today's episode is the first in a special 4-episode series on the case of Scott Peterson, who was convicted of killing his wife, Lacey. In this series, we're going to do things a little bit differently than we usually do them. A couple of the good wives have some pretty different but equally strong opinions on this case, and they're going to hash it out head to head. In the end, all of us will decide who presented a stronger case for their side, and a couple of our listeners will be chosen to have their verdict featured on our podcast and social media pages, and will also receive a gift from the good wives.
Love between us, and I know that we'll all keep searching for Lacey. And, I told Lacey about the relationship. She knew about it, and it's important between us. And we'll continue to search for her. We'll bring her home.
That's another problem people had a big issue with. A lot of Lacey's family talked to me and friends saying, if Lacey knew that you were having an affair, she would have said something to someone. She wouldn't have kept quiet about it.
I don't know if she mentioned it to anyone or not. I did see a report in the news, an interview with a friend of ours, Lori, that indicated that she did not believe that I had told Lacey. Lori also said, I know Scott, and he had nothing to do with her disappearance. And that statement to me is what's relevant. Because you could, question my morals and my poor decision making. That's fine. But don't stop looking for Lacey. She's out there somewhere.
Hey folks, it's time to grab your glass of wine because Good Wives Fancy, Tori, Colleen, and Christina are about to serve up another true crime case.
If you've been listening to our podcast from the beginning, you know that we all have pretty strong opinions about the cases we discuss. In most cases, we agree on a lot. And when we don't, we can usually share our opinions and move on. But when we started our discussions on the Scott Peterson case, we quickly realized that I and Colleen were on completely opposite sides of this case and felt very strongly about it. While Tori and Christina had always thought Scott was guilty, but were open to hearing Colleen's side and possibly seeing the case from her point of view. So we're going to do this series differently. In this episode, we're going to break down the case from Lacey being reported missing to Scott being convicted of murder. In episode 2, Colleen will give us all the reasons that Scott Peterson should not be on death row and at the very least deserves a new trial. the third episode will be my rebuttal, where I get to explain to you guys why Scott is guilty as the day is long. And in the fourth and final episode, the four of us are going to come back together and chat about our thoughts. Tori and Christina will give us their verdicts, and we will announce a contest where you get to share your verdict with us and have a chance at winning a cool prize. But be sure to stay with us to find out how to share your thoughts and how to win. I love this, guys. This is going to be a really good series.
Oh, it really is. I'm super excited to talk about it with you guys. Obviously, we've been pretty much sharing our opinions on this case in small tidbits for a while now. We briefly talked about it on our Murder by Design when we did a combo with Web Sleuths, because this Colleen, I'm in my own little bubble about Scott. But I will give you guys the deets on why I think he's innocent and why at least he deserves this new trial. And I believe that I'm going to be having one of our special guests jump on with me, Mr. Kirk Nurmi, the defense attorney, so he can present equally why, as he says as a defense attorney, why Scott should be given a new trial and why he believes that Scott is innocent as well.
Does he really believe that? I don't think he really believes that. He cannot possibly believe that.
Yep.
Okay. Whatever you say, Colleen. Whatever you say, darling.
I personally can't wait, because this was always a case that I thought was a no-brainer. But I'm really, really curious to hear Colleen and Kirk Nurmi's side.
I was very shocked. I was literally shocked when she typed that in the chat that we were having very early on, long before we started the podcast. Colleen, she said something about it. We were talking about new cases to cover, and she was like, "Oh, I want to cover Scott Peterson and talk about why he's innocent." And I was like, "What?" So it's going to be a fun time, guys. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. Tori and Christina are going to act as moderators. They're going to come on both episodes, and they'll ask some questions based on, Colleen and I are both going to prepare our case. We're going to send it to Christina and Tori. We won't know what the other one is saying until we hear the podcast. So I won't be on Colleen's episode and she won't be on mine, so we'll have to hear what the other person says before we come together on this fourth one. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I didn't know you were bringing a special guest. I guess you need help with your side there, Colleen. But maybe
a professional's opinion, a professional defense attorney.
Maybe I'll get another professional's opinion on my side. How about that? We'll see. I now that I know that you're bringing in, some bangers, some ringers for you, I guess I will have to go grab my own band of merry men. So.
Well, at least I'm presenting my evidence before you, so it's not like, surprise, oh, you didn't submit that into evidence. I've submitted it into evidence.
Oh, we've been talking about doing this case for a long time, guys. I know we've been teasing it out all last season, this season. We've talked about it a little bit on Murder by Design, but we wanted to make sure that we really had a great, amount of time to put into this and really, really do a fantastic job and informing you guys on this subject. So I know it took us a little longer than we promised, but I think it's going to be the best way for us to end this season. And then in October, don't forget, we're going to be releasing 2 new podcasts, one true crime and one entertainment podcast. So while we're on hiatus, we won't really be on hiatus.
Right. And so you guys remember today's episode, we're just kind of breaking down the case. We're not going to be really giving any of our opinions on this. This is just the facts as the general public knows them. And so today's episode, we're not getting into it. That's why you want to stay tuned to our follow-ups with this case so you can hear the facts on both sides and determine in our last episode what you believe, so you can send us what you believe and potentially get a gift.
You keep using that word fact. I don't think it means what you think it means.
I have facts. I have facts.
No. You have ideas,
This is going to be
darling.
so good.
Don't go anywhere. The Good Wives will be right back.
If you've been listening to our podcast for some time, then you've probably noticed that there's been some different changes going on. And that's because we've recently switched over to our new hosting platform, using Buzzsprout, and we love it. It could not have been a smoother transition. Buzzsprout has made it super simple and gave us amazing features we weren't getting before. So if you've been thinking of hosting a podcast or you're looking for a new host, then we totally recommend giving Buzzsprout a try. Buzzsprout is hands down the easiest and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Your show can be online and listed in all the major podcast directories like Apple, Spotify, Google, and even Pandora within minutes of finishing your recording. So join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. And if you follow the link in the show notes, that lets Buzzsprout know we sent you. And it helps you get a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan. And it helps support our show.
In every episode, we like to serve up a special dish from the state that our crime takes place. So here's our resident Cajun Mama Ty to tell you what our true crime dish of the week is.
Hey guys, it's me, Cajun Mama Ty, and I'm here to give you a recipe. So as the good wives are discussing the Scott Peterson case, I decided to do some digging myself. I found a recipe that Scott and Lacey served at their wedding. It is called California Italian wedding soup. So I am going to give you this recipe. We'll go over the ingredients and how to make it. And it is really good. It's a standard soup. It has a little lemon, some herbs, some spices. It also has some Italian style meatballs in it, and some fresh spinach. So we'll go ahead and head back to the good wives as they're continuing their debate, and we'll be back in a few to give you the ingredient list and how to make this awesome recipe. See you in a few.
Sharon and Dennis Robert Rocha were high school sweethearts who got married and owned a dairy farm in California. And I sort of talked about this briefly on August 13th's True Crime in History Day about this town, and we'll be talking about it more, but Modesto. They started a family together, having their son, Brent Rocha, in 1971, and their daughter, Lacey Denise Rocha, on May 4th, 1975. Sharon and Dennis divorced when Lacey was still a baby. Unfortunately, that happens a lot. And the kids lived with Sharon in Modesto. Lacey and her big brother Brent spent weekends with their dad, where they learned how to work on the farm at a very young age. Sharon got remarried to Ron Gransky, who helped raise the kids from the time that Brent was 6 and Lacey was 2. Their dad Dennis also got remarried, and Brent and Lacey gained a stepbrother Nathan and a half-sister Amy from their dad's second marriage. As Lacey got older, she was a cheerleader in junior high school, and while she attended Thomas Downey High School, she developed a love of gardening with her mother, and she loved plant life so much that after graduating high school, she attended California Polytechnic State University and majored in ornamental horticulture, which is a very interesting major.
It is.
On October 24th, 1972, Scott Lee Peterson was born to Jackie Latham and Lee Peterson. Lee owned a crate packaging company, and Jackie owned a boutique in La Jolla. Scott was their first child together, but he had 6 siblings from his parents' previous relationships. They lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, and Scott shared a room with his half-brother John while they were growing up. Scott loved to play golf with his dad, and he was really good at the game. By the time he was a teenager, he decided that he wanted to be a professional golfer. And when he graduated high school, he was one of the top junior golfers in San Diego. In 1990, Peterson attended Arizona State University on a partial golf scholarship. After a slight scandal where Scott took a teammate out to get drunk and the teammate's parents complained to the coach, Scott was kicked off the team. He transferred to Cuesta College in San Luis Obispo and eventually ended up at California Polytechnic State University, where he majored in agricultural business and was a model student. While Scott was attending California Polytechnic, he got a job at a restaurant in Morro Bay called the Pacific Cafe.
How did these two meet? So while Lacey was going to college, she had a friend that worked at the Pacific Cafe, and she would stop by the restaurant to visit her friend. And her friend was Scott Peterson's co-worker. And in 1994, during one of her visits to the restaurant, Scott and Lacey met. Lacey immediately was interested in Scott. She passed along her phone number to the coworker to give to Scott and told her mom that she had met the man she was going to marry. At first, Scott thought it was a joke and threw the phone number away, but Lacey went back to the restaurant and then he knew for sure that she was interested in him. Scott made the call to Lacey, and from that point, their relationship began. They moved in together after dating for 2 years, and after Lacey graduated, they got married at Sycamore Mineral Springs Resort in San Luis Obispo on August 9th, 1997. Lacey got a job in a nearby town while Scott finished his last year at California Polytechnic State University. It's been alleged that around this time, Scott had his first affair while married to Lacey. In June 1998, Scott graduated with a bachelor's in agricultural business, and Lacey and Scott then opened a small business together, a sports bar in San Luis Obispo that was called The Shack. They worked hard to make their business successful, but decided to sell it in 2000 because they were moving to Modesto and planned to start a family of their own. So in October 2000, Lacey and Scott bought their 3-bedroom home in an upscale neighborhood in Modesto.
When I was diagnosed with cancer, it felt like my whole world came tumbling down.
Patient Advocate Foundation is here for you, providing free one-on-one practical support to patients with a cancer diagnosis. Call us at 800-532-5274. Patient Advocate Foundation can assist in navigating disability benefits and health insurance options. PAF also helps in accessing vital services, medications, and financial resources for both medical and household expenses. Visit patientadvocate.org or call 800-532-5274.
Lacey got a part-time job as a substitute teacher, and Scott started working for a company called TradeCorp USA, selling irrigation systems, fertilizer, and other products to farms and growers. In 2002, Lacey and Scott announced that they were expecting their first child. Lacey enjoyed being a wife. She loved cooking and entertaining guests. She was happy and looking forward to parenthood with Scott. They found out that they were expecting a boy and decided to name him Connor. In November 2002, when Lacey was about 7 months pregnant, Scott was introduced to Amber Fry by a woman named Shawn Sibley. Scott had met Sibley on October 24th, 2002 at a trade convention that he attended for work. Scott told Sibley that he was single and looking, and also referred to him as a horny bastard. Sibley decided her friend Amber would be a good match for Scott and decided to introduce them. Amber worked as a massage therapist in Fresno, and from what we know, Scott told her he was single. Scott and Amber's relationship became romantic soon after they met. Okay, so I know we're not supposed to give opinions here, but this isn't an opinion about Scott. What chick decides, hey, he called himself a horny bastard, I'm going to totally set him up with my best friend?
Right, it is creepy. Like, especially like you just met him end of October. Like you met him at the end of October, and like a week later, you're like, hey, this is my friend. He said he's really horny, and I just wanted you to meet him.
Like, is that because she thought maybe she could settle him down, or did she think, hey, my friend's a big slut, he probably would like her? Like, I just don't get that.
Both. I mean, both. Like, she's a massage therapist, so maybe it was like both. Both. They both do it. It's fine.
Let's talk about happy endings, right?
To any of the massage therapists out there.
No, I have friends that are.
Yep,
I have friends that are, and very reputable, but there are those that, are not.
Well, right. So like my second cousin is a licensed massage therapist, specializes in all that. She's wonderful. She's got degrees and stuff. But like there was a massage parlor in my town that's up the street that was shut down because of happy endings.
I know a guy who always said he was going to order a massage table and give traveling massages.
Oh God,
that's
so
hilarious.
gross.
That is hilarious. But yeah, I just can't imagine setting up your bestie with some guy who refers to himself as a horny bastard. Like, literally, wow.
But okay, so
wow.
Before we get into this next part, I didn't really clarify it. The reason I hate Modesto is, and I think it's a effing cursed town, people. So not only Scott Peterson, but also Chandra Levy.
Oh, yeah.
Chandra Levy. Modesto. The serial killer I talked about today. Modesto. That town is cursed. It's a nice upper class, town.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
But I want nothing to do with it because of the amount of dead people that town has produced or has created killers from. So I want nothing to do with it.
So note to self, don't put our studio in Modesto. When we open our studio. No? Okay. Good job.
Next door is fine, but not Modesto.
I really want to say, okay, so we just talked a little bit about, his lengthy amount of, allegedly cheating on his wife. I mean, obviously he did with Amber, but it was alleged that he cheated before that. I do want to say this, and this is me being, rather giving in this situation. I know just because he cheated on his wife, in no way, shape, or form means that he murdered her. That is no basis for that whatsoever. So I just want you guys to realize that now, that is not even part of an idea of why he would murder her, just because, using the idea that he cheated on her, so he must have murdered her. No, that's not at all the way to go about that. So
right. And, I've done some research. Unfortunately, it's sick, but about 30% of men do cheat on their pregnant partners, whether they're, married or not. So it's not uncommon. There's a lot of reasons that men do this, whether they feel left out from the pregnancy, they're not having intercourse while pregnancy, maybe the woman is distant emotionally because of the pregnancy, or they're not interested in being a dad. So there's many, many reasons why this happens. So know that it's not like if he did it, it's horrifying that he did it, but it's not uncommon that men do this.
Sure. And you can be a sleazeball. It doesn't mean you're a murderer. So
thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there you go. See? 1 point for you, Colleen. But in this case, I believe that I do believe he's a murderer and a sleazeball. So
just a sleazeball. I'm gonna call him a shitty husband.
Okay.
As far as I'll go.
Yeah. All right.
Don't go anywhere. The Good Wives will be right back.
This episode has been sponsored by the Oliphant Institute. The Good Wives have been actively taking criminal justice courses at Oliphant Institute. Our good friend Stephen David Lampley, who is one of our regular guests on our YouTube channel Murder by Design, is a 24-year retired SVU detective and the founder of the Institute. Stephen himself teaches each class, and they are no longer than an hour. They're super informative and very interesting, and you can't beat the price as each class only costs $20. If you're interested in learning more about serial killers, human decomposition, and many other criminal justice topics, but don't really care about a degree, then the Oliphant Institute is the right place for you. Head on over to OliphantInstitute.com. That's OLIPHANT Institute.com and get registered for a class today.
Hey guys, it's me, Cajun Mama Ta. Yes, and I am back to give you the recipe for our California Italian wedding soup. And as you know, the Good Wives continue on their debate with about the case of Scott Peterson. I decided, I was going to go ahead and give a good hearty soup recipe with this episode. It is a recipe that was served at Scott and Lacey's wedding many years ago. And then we'll go ahead and we'll start giving you the ingredients. So it is, you're going to use some extra lean ground beef. You're going to have 1 lightly beaten egg, some Italian seasoned breadcrumbs, grated Parmesan cheese. You want some fresh basil leaves, shredded, Italian leaf, flat leaf parsley. You want green onions, chicken broth. You want to have some finely sliced spinach, 1 lemon to zest. Then you want orzo. Orzo is a rice that is shaped, a pasta that is shaped like rice. So you want to have the orzo and you want to use it uncooked. You don't want to boil it or anything yet. We'll go through the recipe and tell you when to boil it. And then you want to have some grated Parmesan cheese for the topping of the soup. So our directions are, your first step is to mix your meat, your eggs, your breadcrumbs, your cheese, your basil, your parsley, your green onions. Mix that all together, and you're going to make like meatballs with it. So you're going to go about a 3/4 inch meatball to an inch meatball, and you set those aside. In your in a pan, in a pot, you want to go ahead and pour the broth in a large pot on a high heat. You want to bring that broth up to boil. Then once the broth is boiling, you want to drop in your meatballs, and you want to stir in your spinach, your lemon zest, and the orzo. Remember, like I said, the orzo is that pasta that's shaped like rice. It's used to help to give a more heartier, it makes the soup heartier. So you want to use that. Then you want to make it boil again. You want to reduce the heat. Once it's boiled, you want to put it on medium and cook it on a slow boil for about 10 minutes until the orzo is tender. You want to stir it frequently. Once it's done, you put it in your bowl, sprinkle a little cheese over it, and there you have it. Your California Italian wedding soup. It's delicious. It's a variation of a standard recipe. I love it because it has fresh basil, it has a little bit of lemon in it, and it's, you can make it your own way. You can make changes if you want to, and it's very quick and easy soup. The prep time is about 10 minutes. Your cook time is 15 minutes, so your total time of making this soup is about 25 minutes. So if you want this recipe, make sure to sign on to our Patreon account. Join our Patreon account and the full recipe will be there. And also, if you have any recipes, you can also go to our Patreon account and see that I have a email address and send recipes to me. But if you want to jot it down, my email address is Cajun Mama Ty, and that's CajunMammaTie@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you guys. Let's head back to the Good Wives as they continue their debate on the Scott Peterson case.
Ty, another great recipe. For the full recipe that was shared tonight, join us at our exclusive membership club at www.patreon.com/truecrimewives.
The week before Christmas, Scott and Lacey went to Carmel, California. They spent a 3-day weekend with Scott's parents, which I believe from the calendar was Friday, December 20th to Sunday, December 22nd. And that was the last time that Scott's parents ever saw Lacey, who was 8.5 months pregnant by this time. On the evening of Monday, December 23rd, 2002, Scott and Lacey went to the salon that Lacey's half-sister Amy worked at. And Amy cut Scott's hair just like she did every month. Later that night, Lacey and her mom, Sharon, talked on the phone at about 8:30 p.m., and Scott and Lacey had plans to have Christmas Eve brunch with the Roaches the next day.
Right, and this is something tradition that they did all the time. And then on December 24th of 2002, Lacey is reported missing. So Scott claims that he left the house at 9:30 a.m. to go fishing at the Berkeley Marina. He said that when he had left, Lacey was watching Martha Stewart on TV. I think she was making a lemon meringue pie, and that she was going to mop the floor, bake cookies, and walk their dog Mackenzie to the park. And when he got back home that afternoon, Lacey wasn't in the house, but her Land Rover was in the driveway. Scott says that he took a shower because he smelled like, the marina. He ate some leftover pizza. He was hungry. And then he washed his clothes because they were wet and smelly from the fishing. And at 5:15, Lacey had not come home, so Scott called Sharon a short time later. He called Lacey's stepfather, Ron. And Ron was concerned, so he called the police and reported her missing. So Scott thought that maybe Lacey had just gone to her parents' house instead. And that evening, while the police were at Scott and Lacey's house, they found Lacey's purse in the closet. Her wallet, keys, and sunglasses were in the purse. And in the dining room table was set for Christmas dinner, and in the kitchen, one of the detectives found a phone book on the counter. It was open to an ad for a defense lawyer, but Scott appeared to be cool, calm, and collected. So whether, Lacey had found out about Scott's cheating and had planned a divorce, or whether that was for some other reason, we don't know. Modesto police detectives John Bueller and Alan Braccini were the lead investigators on the case. They questioned Scott that night. He told them that he went fishing at the Berkeley Marina, about 90 miles from the home. Earlier, he had told police that he went golfing, but he changed it to fishing. He did have time stamps and receipts and video cameras that showed he did go fishing. At 2:15 p.m., he left a message for Lacey that said, "Hey, beautiful, it's 2:15. I'm leaving Berkeley." Detectives got a search going right away, but they were surprised by Scott's behavior. He was calm and didn't ask a lot of questions about how they were going to find Lacey. And it was strange for a man whose very pregnant wife was missing.
So on December 25th, 2002, Karen Servas, who was Scott and Lacey's neighbor at the time, said that sometime after 10:30 a.m. on Christmas Eve, she found Scott and Lacey's dog, Mackenzie, and brought him back to the Petersons' backyard. Another neighbor, Mike, said he saw Mackenzie at about 10:45 a.m. on Christmas Eve as he played outside with his dog. And on December 28, 2002, investigators searched the water near the Berkeley Marina for the first time. Modesto police and the firefighters conducted a huge search along Dry Creek in Sonoma County. There were helicopters with searchlights, police on horseback, and bicycles, canine units, and water rescue units. So 30 officers were involved in the search, and volunteers, along with Lacey's friends and family, posted flyers to raise awareness of her disappearance. Al Broschini said that the police didn't believe that Lacey decided to leave without telling her family, and it would be completely out of character for her to do something like that.
Lacey's family organized a New Year's Eve vigil for Lacey, and this is the vigil that we would later learn Scott was contacting his mistress from, lying to her and telling her that he was in Paris on a business trip. When Lacey was first reported missing, there were almost 1,000 people in her community that were out looking for her. And then the story went nationwide. And
I think this is where...
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right. ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
That he really becomes a sleazeball. Like, the lying. Well, I don't know if he thought that, maybe Lacey got stuck and went into labors. I don't think he thought she was dead. And I think he was just trying to get away with the cheating thing. I don't know. That's sleazeball move. Like, you're at a vigil for your wife and saying, "Oh, yep, I'm in Paris, babe." Sleazeball move. I'm recognizing the sleazeball.
Well, I'll keep my thoughts until my rebuttal.
Well, a $25,000 reward was originally offered for any information leading to Lacey's safe return. That increased to $250,000 and eventually to $500,000. The LaceyPeterson.com website was started by the husband of one of Lacey's friends, and Lacey's family set up a command center at a hotel so they could continue to get information out to the public in the hope of finding Lacey. Over 1,500 people volunteered to distribute information and help search. On January 3rd, 2003, the Modesto police appealed to the public for help verifying Scott's whereabouts during the days before Christmas. Investigators also searched the water near the Berkeley Marina for hours that day. Lacey Peterson's family and friends held a news conference on January 17th, and this is when they demanded answers from Scott and said that he needed to tell the police everything. So the authorities were getting more and more suspicious of Scott as the days went by, and they even looked into Scott to see if he had anything to do with the San Luis Obispo woman who went missing in 1996. Scott and Lacey lived there at the time, but authorities were able to determine that Scott was not involved in that case. On January 19th, Scott and his family went to Los Angeles to search for Lacey. He and his family distributed flyers to the volunteers. And then the police held a news conference on January 24th, and who was there? Amber Fry. And she said that she had been in a relationship with Scott, who she believed to be single, since November 20th, 2002. She contacted the police after she found out while watching the news that Scott was married and a person of interest in his wife's disappearance. So Amber agreed to call Scott and let the police record the conversation.
Amber, so wait a minute. I have to say something here just for information's sake. Just so you guys know, it is more than 4 hours from Modesto to Los Angeles. So why they went there to, quote unquote, put up anything, everything, that's an interesting point to me, because why did you go 4 hours away? I mean, obviously, yes, it is a big city. It's one of the largest cities in California, but Modesto is nowhere near it. So that's very interesting to me.
Right. I wonder, and both of us will probably talk about it, were there other crimes in LA that were potentially similar to what was happening with Lacey that they thought maybe they should inform the public out there? Was there evidence in Modesto that linked there? We'll talk about that in our later episodes, but just something to keep a thought on.
Yeah, but it's interesting that it's him and his family, not the Rocas or the Franskis. I just thought that was interesting.
Amber also said that Scott had informed her on December 9th that he was a widower and that this would be his first Christmas without his wife. And then on January 28th, 2003, Scott Peterson did a televised interview and admitted that he had a relationship with Amber. He claimed that he had told Lacey about it and said, and I quote, "It wasn't anything that would break us apart." Yeah, because pregnant women are usually super okay with their husband's affairs.
Right? Oh, that was such a bonehead. Okay, I'm sorry. In a defense for him, this interview gave him no hope, no help, nothing. It did not do a damn thing for him. I can tell you that right now. Right. If anything, it sunk him even further.
All defense attorneys, seriously, get your clients to stop giving interviews immediately. Stop it. Stop.
Yeah, the talking too much it just leads to bigger problems.
I don't think I would know any pregnant woman that would be like, you're cheating on me while I'm pregnant? That's fine, honey. Go ahead. It's no big deal.
No, I don't think it would have been like, that's no big deal. I think it would have been an issue, but I don't know if it would have caused them to break up or get a divorce and the baby. Like, I think it could cause a problem. I don't know if it was I think he was maybe saying that it wasn't enough for them to get a divorce over it.
Yeah, I don't think he was definitely saying like she was okay with it, but I don't know. I would see a pregnant woman like flipping out and
screaming, probably throwing things at him.
I think at very least she probably would have taken a trip to mom and dad's.
Yeah.
I don't think that they would be in the same house. I think she would have at least gone for a cooling off period, something, let me get my head together. You need to get out and go to your parents' house. I don't think that they would just be happily having Christmas dinner with families. I don't.
Well, right. And we don't know when he told her or when she found out about Amber.
Right.
You know, it might not have been Christmas
Eve. If she ever did. I mean, to be fair, we don't know that she ever did. He could have just said that, so. Yeah. And he is a habitual liar. That's not even freaking up for debate. He is a liar through and through. So,
well, going off of that, because we would also find out later that Scott had called Amber hundreds of times after Lacey went missing, even though he was claiming that Amber was the one pursuing him at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So he definitely has a history of lying in this case. Yeah. And then on February 5th, Lacey's mom, Sharon, made it known to the public that Scott had sold Lacey's car and was also considering selling their house.
Yeah, that's suspicious.
If your wife is missing, wouldn't you want the house there for her to come home to,
Right. I think that's a too soon kind of thing. If that was the case, I don't know if Scott was still working at the time or if he had lost his job due to this. Maybe they were needing money. I don't know what their finances looked like at that time, but definitely is one of those too soon, you don't know enough information yet moves. And again, made it not look good for him.
Yeah. And then on February 10th, that was Lacey's due date. And a week after her due date passed, Scott's mother, Jackie, spoke to the Associated Press, and she told them that her and her family believed that Lacey was abducted by kidnappers who were planning to hold her hostage until after Connor was born.
Interesting.
And that's what I'll talk about in my episode.
I'll be talking about it in mine, too. Okie dokie.
Don't go anywhere. The Good Wives will be right back. So you often hear and see us good wives sipping a glass of wine. And one of our favorite wine clubs is California Wine Club. California Wine Club only works with small wineries, and they hand select 2 bottles of wine each month and ship them straight to your door. Now you don't even have to go to the liquor store to have a sip of bubbly with us. How cool is that?
We absolutely love hearing from our listeners, and we'd like to invite you to send us a question for us to answer or a case you'd like us to cover. You can drop us an email at goodwivesdish@gmail.com, and we might feature it in one of our next episodes and give you a shout out. Right now, we are also hosting our #LoveWins Scholarship Fund. If you're a college-age student who would like to enter, send us a 30-second video telling us about how you lead with love. Email your entry to us with a little bio about yourself and your educational goals. And if you'd like to learn more about our #LoveWins campaign for peace, merchandise, or donation details, go check out our informational video on youtube.com/murderbydesign. We look forward to hearing from you.
Alrighty, guys. So we're going on to the bodies being found here now. So on April 13th, 2003, a couple was out walking their dog when they found the body of a late-term male fetus. The body was beginning to decompose, but was well preserved with the umbilical cord still attached. The fetus was found in a marshy area of the San Francisco Bay Shore north of Berkeley. The next day, someone else found the body of a woman who was recently pregnant, wearing beige pants and a maternity bra. The body was very badly decomposed and was missing her head, arms, and most of her legs. The body had washed up on the eastern shoreline of the bay, just 1 mile away from where the baby's body was found the day before. On April 18, 2003, DNA tests verified that the bodies found were those of Laci Peterson and her son, Connor. The autopsies were performed by forensic pathologist Dr. Brian Peterson, and he found that Connor's skin was not decomposed at all, but the right side of the body was mutilated. A judge sealed the autopsy results, but an anonymous source revealed that nylon tape was found looped around the fetus's neck, and there was a significant cut on its torso. The placenta was not found with the body. Dr. Peterson determined that the fetus had been expelled from Laci's body as it decomposed. Dr. Peterson could not determine whether the fetus had been born alive or dead, but there was no food in his stomach, which if there was, could have indicated he was born alive. The exact date and cause of Laci's death were never determined. She had 2 cracked ribs, but Dr. Peterson couldn't tell if this happened before or after she died. Laci's upper torso was missing the internal organs except for the uterus, which protected the fetus. He stated that no cause of death could be determined for Laci or Connor, but Laci's death caused Connor's death, which he was still in the uterus. The same day, Scott was arrested in San Diego near a golf course in La Jolla, and he said that he was supposed to be meeting his brother and father to play golf, but it appeared that Scott really had other plans. He was in his Mercedes, and it was filled with stuff, though it wasn't the kind of stuff you would need to play golf. It's the kind of stuff that you would need if you were running away. But he had his own driver's license, but he also had his brother's license with him, about $15,000 in cash, clothing, 4 cell phones, a dozen Viagra pills, camping gear, and clothing. His dark hair had been lightened to blonde. Police and prosecutors believe that Scott was planning to flee to Mexico if he had not been arrested. I definitely will be talking about that stuff in my episode. Ha ha.
So will I. On April 21st, 2003, Scott was arraigned in the Stanislaus County Superior Court before his judge, Nancy Ashley. He was charged with 2 felony counts of murder with premeditation and special circumstances and being held without bail. And Scott had pleaded not guilty to the charges. The special circumstances part of the charges allowed the prosecution to seek the death penalty under California law. The reason he was charged with 2 counts of murder is because California has a fetal homicide statute, which means that any fetus from 8 weeks gestation on is considered an equal victim. I have my issues with that as a nurse, but I'll talk about that in my episode. San Luis County District Attorney James Brazelton announced on April 25th that he would seek the death penalty against Scott Peterson. Lisa's memorial service was held in Modesto's First Baptist Church on May 4th, and thousands of people showed up to pay their respects. On May 2nd, so the day before, high-profile defense attorney Mark Garagos was hired by Scott. I'll also talk about him in mine. In June, I don't like him. In June, a gag order was placed on all parties involved in the proceedings to preserve Scott's right to a fair trial due to all the publicity the case was receiving. It was pretty much on every national news channel, every media outlet, everywhere, even across the globe was covering this story.
It got a lot of play. That's for damn sure. Yeah.
On August 18th, a ruling was made not to allow any news cameras in the courtroom for the preliminary hearing. Laci Peterson and Connor were buried in a private ceremony on August 29th, 2003. In September, Laci's family filed a civil lawsuit against Scott to prevent him from making any money for selling his story. Sharon Rocha also filed a wrongful death action and a survival action lawsuit later that year. She sued Scott for over $5 million for the deaths of Laci and Connor. Scott's preliminary hearing was held at the end of October, and DNA and forensic evidence was presented. And on December 3rd, 2003, Scott Peterson pleaded not guilty at his formal arraignment.
In January 2004, it was decided that Scott's trial would be moved to San Mateo County, and the following month, Judge Alfred DeLucci banned cameras from the courtroom for the entire trial. On February 25th, 2004, Superior Court Judge Roger Bochesney ruled that Scott Peterson could sell his story for book or movie deals. Jury selection for Scott's trial began on March 4th, 2004, and it took almost 3 months before a jury was seated on May 27th. There were 6 men, 6 women, and 6 alternates. On March 22nd, Judge DeLucci allowed Scott's pre-arrest TV interviews that we just said were really a bad idea to be used as evidence in his trial. Scott's trial began on June 1st, 2004, and on June 15th, it was reported in the media that Scott was receiving a lot of fan mail in jail, mostly from women. Then on June 21st, 2004, Judge DeLucci had to warn the jurors that they needed to be careful to ensure that their actions in and around the courtroom were not misconstrued. This warning was after juror number 5 spoke to Laci's brother Brent at a courthouse security checkpoint a few days before. A few days after the warning, juror number 5 was dismissed from the jury. Amber Fry testified on August 10th. She said that Peterson told her he was a widower and lied to her about where he lived. Jurors heard the recordings of Scott and Amber's conversations that were recorded after she found out Scott was married and his wife was missing. By November 1st, 2004, the attorneys were beginning their closing arguments, and on November 3rd, the jury started deliberating. 11 days later, the jury was back with their decision. On November 12th, Scott Peterson was found guilty of first-degree murder for Laci's death and second-degree murder for baby Connor's death. The jury also determined that the special circumstances applied in Laci's death, so Scott could face a death sentence or life in prison without parole. When the penalty phase took place from November 30th to December 9th, the jury heard from Laci's emotional mom, Sharon. Scott's mother, father, and half-sister testified for him. But on December 13th, the jury recommended that Scott Peterson be sentenced to death. And on March 16th, 2005, Judge Alfred DeLucci followed the recommendation and sentenced Scott to death by lethal injection. In July of 2006, Scott Peterson gave a videotaped deposition for a $25 million wrongful death lawsuit filed by Laci's family, but the lawsuit was dropped in 2009. In the summer of 2012, an automatic appeal was filed on behalf of Scott in the California Supreme Court. But last year, Governor Gavin Newsom signed an executive order issuing a moratorium on executions of all 737 death row inmates in California prisons, including Peterson. But this only will suspend the executions while Newsom is in office, so we'll see what happens in the future. Scott is currently 47 years old and on death row in San Quentin State Prison in California.
So I wanted to come in here and explain the fact of the judge going ahead and ruling that he could go ahead and sell his story for book or movie deals. Now, I'm sure that some of you are going to ask about the Son of Sam law. And so the Son of Sam law was passed in 1977, and it was basically that they started off as something to strike down a law preventing one of the kidnappers of Frank Sinatra Jr. from making a movie about the crime, the 1963 crime. But then it became a big deal in 1991 because David Berkowitz, which is better known as the Son of Sam, received a number of high-priced offers for the rights to his story. But the U.S. Supreme Court struck down the law as unconstitutional in 1991. I'm sorry. So in 1997, it became a big deal when serial killer David Berkowitz, known as the Son of Sam, received a number of high-priced offers for the rights to his story, but the U.S. Supreme Court struck down the law as unconstitutional in 1991. Now, several other states have gone on to make different laws, California being one of them, but the Supreme Court ruled that it is against the constitutional rights of freedom of speech. And so that is why he was able to go ahead and do that if he was going to do it. So most states have gone ahead and gotten rid of the Son of Sam laws, even though, lots of people say that all the time. Oh, they can't make money. We heard this when we were dealing with Gypsy. Oh, she can't make money. No, she can. Because in the state of Missouri, there are no Son of Sam laws. So wherever the crime is committed, if that state enacts the Son of Sam law, then of course they can, uphold it and do whatever, but it's up to the states. And so currently in California, there is not a law anymore, and they're still trying to pass these laws, but it's becoming less and less that they're able to get these through because of just the sensationalism of these types of stories and people wanting to really know what happened.
Right. All of us have that drive to know things. We recently literally just saw this within the last few weeks regarding Michael Cohen. He was asked to sign in his plea agreement that he would not publish a book, and he said no, and then he was arrested because he was like, I'm publishing it, and he was released from that sentence because it violated his First Amendment constitutional right to free speech, and his book just got pre-order released today. And so it's just something that, First Amendment, we all have a right to say whatever we want, and so that's where, do we think it's ethical that criminals get to make money off of their crimes? No, but they have a right? Technically, yes.
Right. And so, I mean, we're seeing it right now. We've dealt with this in trying to go for, the Freedom of Information Act for certain cases to get, public documents. We've had to file that before. Sometimes we've had to make the decision whether we wanted to actually lodge a court case or not. And so far we have decided not to. There was one case that I was thinking of doing it because of just the sheer amount of information that I know that we can get if we file it. And that was in the Lacey Spears case, because we've had a lot of trouble getting them to send us all the documents in that case, which is why we have not yet gotten to cover it yet, because it's just so much. But so we're seeing that right now with the Epstein situation, because that all falls under this Freedom of Information Act, and that the public,
the Sunshine Law, right?
Right. Well, there's some states that call it Sunshine Law, and some states call it the Freedom of Information Act. So it just depends on what state you're dealing with. So that's how all of this comes into play. It all falls under public information and freedom of speech, and it all kind of connects together. So I just thought I would give you guys a little side note on that, because we always hear that from people. And, I thought that the Son of Sam laws were everywhere too, until I started dealing with the Gypsy case. And then I had to look into it to find out what we could or could do for her, and so it just it's an interesting thing that they've done away with them. Yeah,
I have a question for you. Is that the reason why a lot of times we'll hear in cases where a judge will rule that any money made is to be given to the victims' families?
Yes, that is why.
Makes sense.
That is why,
it's like
because if
exception.
Right. That's how they get around it. Yeah, you can tell your story, but you have to give, money to the because what they'll do is they'll grant a judgment for the fact that the families have filed against them. So if they file a $5 million suit, you can't make any money until you've paid that $5 million, so.
Yeah.
Though I did want to give one fact here about Governor Newsom. So the last time that California did give an execution on death row at San Quentin was in 2006. So they haven't done executions in over 10 years. They actually had turned their execution chamber into a storage closet. It was something that hasn't been done. People have been wanting it to start, but they don't know. There's issues regarding in many states. We did talk with Kirk Nermy about this in one of our recent episodes regarding the medical directive and the use of the medications that we do not have for lethal injection, because we're supposed to be using 3, but countries that create 2 of them are refusing to give them to the United States because we have the death penalty. So now we're only using 1, and the ethical considerations of using just that 1 are under speculation. So there's a big medical component to why they haven't in a long time. But due to the coronavirus, there have been, I think they said 15 inmates on death row have died of coronavirus at San Quentin. So they're on death row and they are dying, just not in the, death penalty way.
Hold on while I cry those tears. No.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to see tears from me. Scott hasn't been dead from coronavirus, so.
I'm not saying that I want anybody to die from coronavirus, but let's just say that there's some guys on death row in San Quentin that I wouldn't miss.
Well, right. So I think all the people who have died are pretty awful people.
Yeah.
And they weren't, getting out. They were, lost their appeals. And
right. Yeah,
So
exactly.
they weren't at risk of, getting out.
Right.
It was going to happen one way or another.
Don't go anywhere. The Good Wives will be right back. Every great podcast needs a great website. Currently, our mother company, Mad Ginger Entertainment, is building their website using Bluehost. Bluehost is one of the best and most affordable web hosting platforms available. Plans start as low as $2.95 a month, and you can even integrate it with WordPress. So if you need your own website or affordable web hosting, grab our discount link in the description and get your podcast a bigger presence online at low costs.
Hey guys, it's me, Cajun Mama Ty, and I am here with our French lesson of the day. So, as I continue talking about Lacey Peterson, I am just going to give you a little research that I've done about her, and my French word that I have chosen describes the woman that Lacey was at the time of her death. Belle à femme à marier ancien, which means she was a beautiful, pregnant, married woman. Lacey Denise Roca was born in Modesto, California on May 5th in 1975 to Sharon and Dennis Roca. Her father's family owned a dairy farm where she was raised and developed a great love for planting. Both she and her mother loved to plant flowers and different vegetables every year. After her mother and father divorced, she continued the tradition with her father of planting different gardens. Throughout her journey in school, Lacey was a role model student. She had many friends. In both junior high and high school, she was a member of several clubs, but her favorites were cheerleading and Future Farmers of America. After graduating from Thomas Downey High School in 1992, she attended California Polytech State University and majored in horticulture. In 1994, Lacey met the man of her dreams, Scott Peterson. They met at a local restaurant in California. She made the first move. Her friend introduced her, but she left her phone number for Scott to call her. They dated for several years and married in 2000. Then they moved back to Modesto, where Lacey had accepted a substitute teaching job at a local elementary school. Lacey was a beautiful, married, pregnant woman at the time of her death, which brings me back to our French word, our French lesson of the day. La belle femme mariée ancien. Rest in peace, Lacey and Connor.
Alrighty, guys. So in our next episode, you're going to hear from Colleen, and Tori and Christina will be on that episode. As I said, they're going to, kind of do some questions and answer session with Colleen. She'll also get a chance to just go, freestyle some stuff and just kind of freely present a case. And then Tori and Christina will ask questions based on her case. She'll dish out all the reasons she believes that Scott Peterson doesn't belong on death row and should get a new trial. And she thinks that the evidence she presents will convince us that mistakes were made in this case. One thing I know for sure is she's a very tough job, and it's going to get very interesting. So be sure to come back and join us for the rest of the series and to find out how to enter the contest we told you about in the beginning of the episode.
Thanks so much for tuning in and dishing true crime with the Good Wives.
Don't forget to join our Patreon member club to get the full recipe shared tonight, inside documents and pictures from the case, bonus mini podcast episodes, live YouTube discussion, and an exclusive invitation to our discussion group on Facebook, and get some amazing Good Wives merch.
Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at True Crime Wives. And for more inside information, check us out on YouTube at Murder by Design, where we're currently talking about a few different true crime cases, from bullying murders to serial killers. We dish it all.
Have a good one from the Good Wives, serving up true crime, one dish at a time.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.